What is up, guys? Again, NotTheWorst here, bringing another Black Desert online video, and today we're taking a look at the global lab patch notes that were released today, August 6th. Now, typically, I will wait until Friday, the following day from when these are released, to review them, just because that gives us a little bit of time to digest. They're in another language, so Google Translate's a little wonky, and kind of go through them a bit more and see what other people think about it before covering them, as well as YouTube likes it a little better if I separate a patch note video from Wednesday into Friday. However, there are some big things going on, so I had to cover this right away as it came out as soon as I saw it. So first up, we've got this wonderful note from the developers. It's pretty wonky as far as the translate goes for it, but essentially what they're saying is they have increased bonus DP and bonus AP. They're talking about brackets. There are additional brackets that were added, and then they also noted essentially your basic attack skills and things were made to be not completely useless. The damage on them being a base of 1 in some cases are now at a base of 100, etc. there. And then the more important note for all of that is the succession to awakening balance that they talked about previously in Q&As, is that they were going to address this not by nerfing succession but by buffing awakening. They do know that this is not that, and they are still working on that type of balance to be coming in the future. So note that this is not the end of what we're going to be seeing. As mentioned, basic damage of some class summoner basic attacks was increased. So for instance, your Heilang and stuff, you can see at max here, or succession, I think that is at 100 at level 11, 95 coming up from 65, etc., for the classes that those apply to there. Now here we have the new DP brackets, new as in there are additional ones. The previous ones were not changed as far as what they do, at least not entirely. If we take a look at DP here, we see previously we had the 14% bracket being 301 to 308 DP. It's actually 301 to 307 now, so you'll be able to hit the 15% bracket at 308, which previously was one additional. So those were adjusted slightly. When we get up to the 346 bracket, which is currently in-game the max, the 20% damage reduction rate for it, that 346 is actually being reduced down to 341 to hit that bracket, and it's up until 346 at 20%. We then see at 347 an additional bracket added at 21%, and now this goes all the way up to 30% at 401 DP. Obviously, that's a ton of DP. I've seen some things floating around about this making DR builds stronger. I mean, it can make them better if you're highly stacked in DP. However, I mean, you're already running like pen heave and things in the evasion build, so your DP is even higher. So I don't see an instance where this changes the balance difference between evasion and DR builds whatsoever, because your evasion builds are already more easily hitting this amount of DP and getting higher damage reduction rates. This is just going to buff evasion the same that it would buff a DR build, making evasion just better than it was. Yes, DR is better than it was, but evasion's still just going to be flat out stronger, since it'll actually scale and DR still won't. But again, they're noting these are just a portion of changes. This kind of addresses things in the future. This also gives access to, you know, that 20% bracket a little bit early at 341. When you're at that level, that can be, you know, 4 levels of Caphras or maybe a pen piece of armor less to actually hit that. And there's actually things to continue to pursue even beyond that. So like seeing that. Now, to counterbalance that, they also said that they'll introduce some new AP brackets. So we can see here they didn't change the amount of AP that it was. Previously, we did have the 309 bracket being the final AP bracket, similar to the 346 DP being the final bracket. That is now 309 to 315, maintaining the 200 additional attack for it. And then we have 4 more brackets, 316 to 322, 323 to 329, 330 to 339, and 340 plus, picking up an additional 3 in the first one, 2 more, and then a final 3 in the last AP bracket. Obviously, these are massive high-end brackets to look at. Your run-of-the-mill player is getting to these points. I'm at 297 myself at the moment, so you know these are still things to continue to pursue. But again, you want to continue moving the goalpost so that once you've achieved it, there's still something to work on. Next up, we actually have a good amount of class changes. There are some buffs-ish for pretty much everyone across the board here. I'm not going to dissect all of these just because my knowledge of each class individually is going to be lacking quite a bit, and as I'm a DK main, I'll just talk briefly about what's going on with DK specifically. I did read through each of these for each skills. I don't know necessarily what it means for every single class, but there's a lot of things like, for instance, this. If you look at Musa, Meiwa has something similar. Stun in effect, 50% chance critical when hitting the reverse pull technique's been added. Meiwa has a CC removed with an additional super armor added, along with a frontal guard and a CC removed, replaced by a frontal guard as well. So a lot of things like that. If you want to check it out, the link to the translated page is in the description below. I highly recommend you jump in there and check it out for your class individually. Talking about Dark Knight, so first up we've got in our pre-awakening, we have essentially Obsidian Ashen is just adjusted for horseback. That's not what we want to talk about. What we want to mention here, the Awakening Seed of Disaster was actually switched back. This back in the day was a floating. It's now a stiffness. This was switched from stiff back to a floating, which is nice, but this doesn't make Awakening whatsoever in line with Succession. Again, they're still going to be buffing Awakening for all classes in the future, at least as they're currently saying. Now we see some Succession changes. So we've got the stiffness effect of the permeating dark technology, that would be pervasive darkness, has been changed to apply only to monsters, and the frontal guard effect during the first strike has been added. This actually makes it in line with the pre-awakening version of pervasive darkness. If you're unaware, that actually does exactly that. It has a frontal guard and it does not have a stiffness on it at all. This one's going to have a PvE stiffness for monsters and will have the frontal guard, which matches the pre-awakening. Aside from that, we have our passive skill that's in Succession is going to be changed from currently a stamina increase of 300. It's going to be a movement speed plus 5%. That's fairly interesting. We'll have to see how that plays out. Stamina is pretty important, but movement speed plus 5% is nothing to scoff at. Both Archer and Ranger have a passive 10% speed movement in their pre-awakening kit to start with, and I think Lawn is like 2% or something like that. So a 5% increase would put us between those two as far as if you were in a just flat out foot race without using skills, I suppose. So we'll see about that. It's nice to have the movement speed plus 5%, but losing 300 stamina could actually have a bit of an impact there. So we'll kind of see how that plays out, at least when it does hit the live servers. Moving on from there. Aside from just the class balances, we also have some other big news going on here. First up, we've got Red Battlefield. This is no longer going to be a server cooldown to get to it. So the way it's put here is Uno 2 server is what's going to be used for Red Battlefield, and it's not going to affect your cooldown on moving to other servers. So you don't have to go to Velia 4 anymore to then actually get into Red Battlefield and then be on server cooldown. You'll actually just be put into this specific one. I'll read the quick developer's note since it's a little short. Keep in mind, we've got Google Translate kicking it out here. The existing Red Battlefield was assigned to each server, but today's update has changed it to an integrated form. Accordingly, you can enter the desired Red Battlefield without changing the server. In addition, based on this foundation, new maps are available. Many of you have been bored by the same maps. We will add maps as soon as possible so that you can have more fun. So we're looking at more than just the same old one map that we had. Monster changes, we've got updates to the gatekeepers. It doesn't say exactly what they're going to be dropping. The drop rewards were increased. Obviously, the gatekeepers themselves were buffed. They do note that Adventurer saw a group of 5 people in Max Tuvala gear that barely fought back against these gatekeepers. To give you an idea of level, that would be 5 soft cap players struggling with gatekeepers. So this will be something. This was outdated content that's been revamped. Obviously nobody does gatekeepers these days, so maybe they'll be worthwhile doing. Now we have updates to field bosses as well. I love the name Stupid Tree Spirit instead of Dim Tree Spirit. Personally, I think they should change the English in-game name to Stupid Tree Spirit instead of just going with Dim, but you know, it is what it is. But that guy plus the field boss Mud Monster, the Cowardly Beg, and the Red Nose have all been increased, and Katsubarian have been increased. The amount and probability of attaining the existing rewards of the field boss have been increased. If you succeed in attacking, you can obtain a certain amount of ancient elemental power. You can also obtain, these are Advice of Valks 20, 30, and 40 with a certain probability. So you can actually get fail stacks from the field bosses themselves. Pretty cool to see that. We've got an update to the weekly season quests that exist. It's just reducing a bunch of them from 5,000 kills down to 4,000. So a little bit of a buff in the quest line for that. The war-based buffs that were previously, HP buffs that were previously there from 5,000 are going to be reduced down to 1,000. I don't siege myself, but that sounds like that's going to be pretty important for how that works. And then there's some UI tweaks and things like that. And they do note that there's going to be some more changes coming to the global labs to test out in the future, again with those buffs, and still addressing the awakening buffs as well. The way it's worded, I think that there's going to be something else before we see those awakening buffs, and then that something else will be prior to those, but we'll have to see what they actually produce out. So that is it for this one. Let me know what you guys think about these changes. Be sure to read through your class, again with that link in the description down below. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to like it. If you didn't enjoy the video, you're wrong. You should like it anyways. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you get notifications when new videos do go live. And if you'd like to catch me playing live, there's a link to my Twitch page in the description below. You can head on over there, drop a follow so you get an update for that as well. With that said, that's going to be it for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and I will see you next time.